They made me sit at the kids' table during my own parents' backyard barbecue. Their reason? According to them, I hadn't accomplished anything worthy of adult conversation. Everyone else laughed, everyone but me. I just stared at my sister because she had no idea that her dream job actually depended on my signature. If you've ever been underestimated by your own family, you know how that feels. Still hustling on that so-called side project, my dad sneered, flipping burgers like he hadn't just dismissed my entire existence. Mom joined in with that fake pity tone. Maybe it's time to stop pretending you're building a business. You're almost 30. The laughter around the table was brutal. My sister, Emily, sipped her wine and rolled her eyes. Honestly, Claire, you could have at least married Mark like the rest of us. They weren't just talking down to me. They were burying me alive with their words. What they didn't know was that the side project they mocked had just landed a multi-million-dollar contract weeks ago. I hadn't told anyone, not because I was hiding it, but because I wanted to see who they really were before they found out. Emily bragged loudly that she had just applied for a position at Titan AI, the hottest startup in Silicon Valley. Their CEO's a mystery, she said with a smirk, but I hear it's some woman with zero social life. Probably a total nerd. My fingers tightened around my glass. That CEO was me. And Emily was about to interview for a spot on my team.
But she didn't know that yet.
I excused myself quietly, pretending to check my phone. My inbox lit up with her application. One click. Approve. But I hesitated. I remembered every time she tore me down. Told me I'd never make it. Called my dreams useless. I remembered how Mom and Dad pushed me to quit, to take a real job. How they cut me off. They thought they were teaching me a lesson. But I was learning how to win. Just then, Dad shouted from across the yard. Claire, can you grab some napkins? Make yourself useful for once. The whole table chuckled. I didn't say a word. I smiled. Because they were laughing at the woman who held the power to shape Emily's future. I slipped into the kitchen, but instead of grabbing napkins, I opened my laptop. Notifications flooded the screen. New contracts, partnership offers, investors reaching out. I scrolled past them until I landed on Emily's resume. Polished, impressive on paper, but none of it told the truth. How she mocked me in high school for being too geeky. How she once told me, "No one takes girls like you seriously in tech." I read her cover letter twice. She had no idea she was writing to me. I've always admired Titan's innovation, she wrote. It would be an honor to contribute to a company run with such bold vision. Bold vision, the same girl who told me I'd end up broke was now begging to work under my leadership. I laughed quietly, not with pride, but from the irony. They thought I was beneath them, that I had failed. But here I was, the decision-maker Mom called from outside. Claire, are you seriously taking this long? Even kids know how to help out. I shut the laptop slowly, walked outside with napkins in hand, and silence in my eyes. I watched them joke, mock, brag, unaware of how close they were to losing the one thing they'd soon need the most. Then Emily's phone rang. She gasped and jumped up. Oh my God, it's Titan. They want to talk to me right now. Everyone cheered. Mom hugged her. Dad raised his beer. That's our girl, gonna work for the next Steve Jobs. Emily winked at me, smirking like always. Guess I'm finally the one bringing prestige to this family. I just looked at her calmly. Make sure you impress them. The final decision-maker can be unpredictable. She didn't get it, but she was about to. Emily rushed inside for the call, her heels clicking across the floor like she was walking into a royal interview. The rest of the family celebrated as if her success was guaranteed. Mom chuckled. Maybe you'll get inspired by your sister now, huh? Try aiming higher. I didn't flinch, because in that moment, the power shifted and no one noticed. Inside, Emily sat at the table, flipping her hair and speaking in her rehearsed professional voice. Yes, absolutely. I've been following your company for years, she said, pacing nervously. I'd love to meet whoever is doing the final round. I'm sure we'll connect instantly. I walked by with a glass of water. She didn't even glance my way. 10 minutes later, she hung up glowing. They said the final decision-maker will reach out to me directly, she announced proudly. I smiled and leaned forward. You know, sometimes those decision makers are closer than you think. She laughed. Please, Claire, let me enjoy this. You wouldn't understand what it feels like to be chosen. That's when the notification popped up. Her file was ready. One click and she'd get the formal offer. One click and she'd finally realize who held the upper hand. But I wasn't done. Because this barbecue wasn't just about food. It was about position. Every family member had taken turns mocking me that day. I wanted them all there when the truth hit. So I waited until dessert. That's when my uncle brought up job titles and asked everyone to share what they were doing. Emily went first, of course. I'm about to get hired at Titan AI, she said, beaming. It's a major step for me, finally doing something meaningful. Everyone clapped. Then someone looked at me. Claire, what about you? I wiped my hands, stood slowly, and said, I own Titan AI. Dead silence. Emily blinked, like she couldn't believe what she'd just heard. Dad tilted his head. What did you say? I started it 5 years ago, I said. Built it from scratch. The company your sister's dying to join. I run it. Emily's wine glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the patio stones like a gunshot. Everyone froze. Emily's mouth hung open. Wait, what? She whispered, voice cracking. You're joking, right? I looked her straight in the eyes. Do I look like I'm joking? Uncle let out a low whistle. Mom stammered. No, that can't be you. You never bragged. Never flaunted it. Never begged for approval. I cut her off. You're right, I didn't. Because while you were all laughing at me, I was building something real. Emily's face went ghost white. But the interview? The final decision maker? I nodded slowly. That was me. Has always been me. I read every word of your application. Impressive resume, by the way. A little too much confidence for someone who used to say girls like me don't belong in tech. Dad tried to interrupt. Claire, this is a family gathering, not a show.
No, Dad, I snapped.
This is exactly the show you created. You handed me the stage when you mocked me. You lit the spotlight when you called me useless. And now you don't get to control the ending. Emily's voice shook. Are you going to block my application? I leaned in so she could hear every word. Why wouldn't I? You humiliated me every chance you got.
Tore me down.
Told me I'd never be enough. And now you want my help. She swallowed hard, trying to stay composed.
I was just being honest back then.
I didn't know. You didn't care to know, I said coldly. None of you did. Mom finally spoke, almost pleading. Sweetheart, we didn't realize how serious you were. You should have told us. I turned to her. Would you have believed me if I had? Silence, guilt. A table full of people suddenly speechless. Emily looked like she wanted to disappear. Please, Claire. This job means everything to me. I stared at her, letting the moment settle. You want my approval now? She nodded, eyes brimming. Well, I whispered, maybe I'll think about it, after you tell everyone here how wrong you were. Emily stood trembling, eyes darting between me and the stunned faces around the table. Dad looked 10 years older in 5 minutes. Mom stared at her empty plate, ashamed to meet my gaze. No one was laughing anymore. Now do it, I said, folding my arms. You wanted to be the one bringing prestige to this family, right? Show them what real humility looks like. She took a shaky breath, then turned to everyone. I was wrong, she said, voice cracking. I mocked Claire for years. Said things I shouldn't have. Called her a failure. But she's the one who succeeded. She's the one who built something we couldn't even imagine. No one interrupted. No one clapped. They just sat there, choking on the truth. And I'm sorry, she added, barely holding back tears. Claire, I'm sorry. For the first time in years, a strange calm washed over me. Not from revenge, but from finally reclaiming my voice. I walked up to Emily, looked her in the eye, and said, That's a start. She nodded, hopeful. So, does that mean you'll approve my hire? I gave her a long, unreadable look, then slowly reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. A few taps later, her file opened. I hovered over the approve button, then smiled faintly. I believe in second chances, I said. Her eyes lit up, but not handouts. I tapped decline. The room gasped. I'm not punishing you, Emily. I'm protecting my company. Right now, you're not ready to lead anyone because you still think leadership is about ego, not effort. She stepped back, crushed. The silence was suffocating. I turned to the rest of the family. For years, you all measured success by money, titles, and parties. You never asked about my ideas, my passion, or my vision. That's fine, because now I'm done asking for a seat at this table. I placed my napkin down, picked up my bag, and started to walk away.
Claire.
Wait, Dad called out. We didn't know. We made a mistake. I paused at the gate, looked over my shoulder, and said one last thing. You didn't make a mistake. You made a choice. And so did I. I chose to rise while you watched me fall. Now, you'll watch me lead, without needing your permission. That night, I sat in my penthouse overlooking the city. My inbox buzzed with new offers, partnerships, respect, but most of all, freedom. They laughed at me once. They won't laugh again.